Hi there. We have Emily Lorini, a mezzo-soprano, who is American and came up in the States and has made a career and a life in Germany. She made the dive, and we want to find out what her experience of it is these days. So, Emily, hi.
Hello, Larry. It's so nice to be here with you today and with everyone.
It's so great that you can talk to us. It really is a help. It's been a long time since I was in the theater system, and we want to know what's going on today and how you did it. So tell us about yourself and where you're from and what got you interested in music and then your education and your training. Go ahead.
Thank you. Absolutely. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up there and I was a bit of a shy kid, and I sort of fell into dance and theater and musical theater, and I really enjoyed it. It brought me out of my shell. I just really connected with musicals and with dancing and singing. And so
What
for a while
music
I was
what musicals did you do when you were a kid?
I did The Wizard of Oz, we did Guys and Dolls, The Music Man, Fiddler on the Roof. My high school, I was very fortunate. It had a wonderful arts program, my junior high and high school. And so I had a lot of really great opportunities in theater, straight theater, and in musical theater. So that's where I got the bug. And then it was a voice teacher my senior year of high school that just sort of introduced me to some classical music. And I really sort of was drawn to opera. I went to Grove City College for my undergrad, a small school in Pennsylvania, and I was a voice major. I was studying voice, but still on the fence between did I want to do musical theater? Did I want to do opera, classical music? And I ended up switching majors to communication, but still continued taking opera workshop, and I still took voice lessons. And so my undergrad degree is actually in communication. And then I decided after my undergrad that I really loved um, I really loved the way that opera and classical music expresses the human soul and the human voice. And so I went back and did a master's in vocal performance at Miami of Ohio. And so
Who did you study with there?
I studied with Audrey Luna,
Uh-huh.
a soprano, and she was a wonderful teacher. She really, really gave me an excellent technique, an excellent foundation, which served me very well and still does in Germany to this day. And I had some things to catch up on since I wasn't a music major. But so my days in the master's program were quite full, but it was a great experience there. Um, when I finished my master's, I did some young artist programs. I did a few competitions in the States.
Which young artist programs and which competitions?
I did. I did one at Opera Santa Barbara. I did a in Mississippi. They had in the Natchez Festival of Music. They had a young artist program. I also did Dayton Opera. I did Santa Fe for 2 summers, and I was at Glimmer Glass for 1 summer.
So you've really done the American way. You really did that
I did,
completely.
and I did. Of course, I did the Met audition as well. I
And you
won, I think, the
did-
District of Ohio, and then I went on to the regionals, and I didn't quite um, score high enough to move on, but I did them a couple years.
well, and you won the district. I mean, you did competitions and you did
Yeah.
young artist programs. So you really did the American system. And how did you find that?
Uh it was good. It was a challenge, and I did these few competitions. I was doing the young artist programs. I It was a challenge for me at the time to get some steady work in the regional companies. So I was working a little bit, but I had a church job, singing, and I was having to to wait tables on the side. I was also teaching voice lessons on the side. So
You were an American classical singer. I mean,
exactly.
I can totally sympathize, with the life, and I mean, and plus you're a mezzo, and so as a mezzo, that's even more difficult, to make to get, there are just fewer parts, and and not many really big ones that Americans do. What prompted you to go to Germany?
My voice teacher had sung in the fest system in Germany, and she had talked to me about it and her experience there. And some other friends and colleagues had also sung in Germany, and it sort of piqued my interest. My husband is also a singer, so the idea of singing in Germany, a smaller country, we thought, interesting. This, maybe we could make this work as a couple. The distances in the States are so huge. I mean, I was in California, he was in Cincinnati, and traveling all around, we thought it seemed very appealing to perhaps live and work in a country like Germany with so many opportunities. And so that's our interest was piqued. And after a few years, like you said, the American way, we thought, let's try something different and see if we like it.
You were married actually, as in the States, and were living and working both as musicians in America,
Yes, exactly.
and it didn't provide you really with a viable life.
Not exactly, because as we said, having to work other jobs and being apart for certain times, we thought, is there another way we could make this work as a couple and still have a nice life as artists?
Right. So tell me about your early auditions in Germany. How did it, how did you first get an audition in Germany?
Ours is a fairly unique story, Larry, actually. My husband had actually done an audition there for a master's degree. He was thinking of that could be a way to get a foot in the door. So he went over first and did that. He didn't get
At
the audition.
as at a Musikhochschule? A
Yes,
which
yes.
one?
Oh gosh, I think it was Augsburg.
Okay.
We had a contact with a professor there, and so we thought that might be a way for him and for us to get there. Was for him to do another master's degree in Germany. That was our first idea, and that didn't work out. And so we thought, okay. We had heard from some people that the idea of doing an audition tour, going for 2 or 3 weeks and then coming back, we had heard from some people that that might not be the best strategy, that it can be helpful to be there for a longer
That's
period
very,
of time.
that's very, very true.
So instead of doing an audition tour, we talked to a few colleagues and friends that had also sung in Germany, and with some advice from them, we thought, you know what, let's move to Germany. um,
Whoops, you're
let's sell
falling
let's
out.
sell Oh, did you lose me?
I lost you for a minute here. You talked to a
Oh,
few musicians and colleagues.
yes, and they suggested, if you can be based in Germany, eh, that's a better way to sort of get consistent work in the country, is if the agents and the theaters know that you're living and based in Germany. So then we thought, okay, let's take the dive, and we sold our vehicles, we sold all of our furniture, we sold or donated our things. We kind of had a plan in mind. We said, let's live there for 1 year. We saved up enough money to live for 1 year without any work. um, and we said, let's try it for a year and see what work we get, see what connections we can make, and if we like the lifestyle and if we start to get work, we'll stay. And if we don't, we've been in Germany for a year and we can come back to the US and maybe try something else. So we didn't do a normal audition tour. Um,
Uh-huh. Well, you went there and you lived there for a year. Where did you live?
We lived in Bremen. We
Uh-huh.
we subletted an apartment from an American friend of a friend who that was very helpful to have that sublet at the time. And so we were in Bremen. It was actually a pretty nice location. It's, I mean, obviously far north, but we were close to Berlin. The train station was easily accessible to do auditions. My husband had studied German a little bit before we came. I was not as diligent as he was with my German, and if I could do it over, I would definitely have learned German in advance, more German in advance if I could. But also while
German,
we were
I can say that I learned German in rehearsals myself, and I studied with somebody, and she is, it's nice to have the grammar to hang things on. It's nice to have the structure.
absolutely, it's a challenging language to sort of pick up if you aren't familiar with it. So while we were living in Bremen, we took a German class at the Volkshochschule there as well. I started also, my husband as well, with the A1 level. We did the A2. We were auditioning for different agents, and
Well, let's talk about your audition process. So
mhm.
how did you get in touch with the agents, and what materials did you send to them? How did you do that? Living, well, you were living in Germany, but nonetheless, you had to get in touch with them. What did you
Yes,
send?
yes.
What did you write, and did you write it in German, etc.?
Good question. I sort of looked up different agencies, Googling them in Germany, different Agentur. I would Google them and sort of look at their roster for sort of mid-level agents. And I did choose to contact them in German. I figured, let me try my best. And I'm sure there was many mistakes. I mean, I did use the What the Fach book as a guide to sort of with some of the
Right.
terms, and that was very helpful. But the early correspondence in German, of course, was a challenge, and I made sure to translate my resume and in German. My German bio, I think actually I had a friend in Bremen, a German friend, translate that for me. Um, and so yes, I did send my materials in German to the agents initially.
So your process was you actually Googled them and looked at their rosters
Mhm.
and uh, and chose sort of on the basis of that which ones you were going to write to.
Mhm. Yes, yes.
And how many of them responded, and how did they respond? What was the deal?
A few seemed interested. I think I did. I sang for a few, but some of them didn't respond at all as well. I
Did
think
you send
event
clip? You send voice clip? Did you send clips? Videos and voice clips.
I did. I also I had a website that I also said you can listen to sound clips on the website, and I think I did include some sound clips as well. Um,
Okay.
and then I think it was Theater Jobs, which is sort of a site that I think the name has changed. This was we came in 2012. We were in Bremen.
It is a very useful site.
hmm And it was there. I wasn't having too much luck with the agents, and so I looked on this theaterjobs.de, and I found the Hochschule in Hamburg was doing an opera production. Someone dropped out. It was a modern German opera, and they needed someone at very short notice to jump in, and so it was an audition. I contacted them. They wanted to hear me. I learned some of this challenging modern music, and they asked me to do it. And so that was my very first um, contract. Was at the Hochschule in Hamburg.
So it
Um,
was your contact. You were actually practically involved with making music in German.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And They were very kind and patient. They spoke English with me because my German was not quite at a level where I could freely communicate. But yes, that was my very first. I think that came in. We arrived in October of 2012, and I think the Hamburg thing came. It was 2013. I think in February. Um, we had also applied for a freelance artist visa to stay a little bit longer, because with the American passport, you can only stay for 3 months. And so we also applied for that in Bremen, and we received that. They wanted to see a couple different requirements from us. Every city is a little bit different with the process and the requirements. In Bremen at the time, we had to show a certain amount of money in a German savings account. We had to show that we had health insurance. We had to show our degrees. We had to show any auditions or upcoming work that we had. Basically, they wanted to see that if they gave us this artist visa, we weren't going to go on unemployment immediately. They wanted to know that, we could support ourselves.
What was what was the process for getting health insurance and all those kinds of things?
We had a health insurance. I believe it was an international company online that we found, and the process of even applying for the visa was challenging at times. It was the winter time. It was dark. It was cold. We had to get up very early in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, take the S-Bahn, wait in a line outside for a long time before we could even get in to the office where we were applying. And we were struggling with our German. Eventually, we brought a German friend with us who could help and do some translation for us. So the process was a little challenging, but in the end, we received it, and we were granted 1 year, a freelance artist visa, for 1 year. Nowadays, when you have worked and paid into the social security system in Germany for the equivalent of 5 years, you are eligible for a unlimited work visa, which it's a visa that the date is linked with your American passport. So essentially, when you renew your American passport, your unlimited German work visa can also be renewed at that time. So I received that in 2019. I was eligible. So I went back to the foreigner's office, and it was a much easier process in Coburg. It's a smaller city, so the foreigner's office a little quieter than in Bremen. But I was so thankful to receive that, and to know that, you know no matter where I go, I mean, I'm always eligible to now work in Germany, to have that permanent work visa. In German, it's called a Niederlassungserlaubnis.
So what did you do then?
So at that point, we were looking again on the Theater Jobs website, and I saw there was an audition notice for a chorus job for an alto in the chorus there in Coburg, a city I had never heard of. And it was a 6-month contract. A singer was taking maternity leave in the chorus, and they needed someone to replace her for 6 months. And I immediately thought, I don't want to be in the chorus. I'm a soloist. But on the other hand, I thought, well, why not? It's good to audition. And if they want to hear me, I'll sing and just practice auditioning. So I did the audition. I was asked they gave me the job. And I actually had one weekend to pack my things in Bremen. And I packed on Saturday, and I started work on Monday. So it was they needed someone at the very last minute to come in. So that was my first official job in a German theater.
For your audition, did you overnight? Did you just as a practical matter, you took a train down from Bremen to Coburg? It's a long ride. And uh, did you stay in a hotel and then did you go to the theater? How just a little practical matter of doing auditions. How did you do that?
Absolutely. We don't have a car in Germany. You really don't need one, depending where you live. So yes, we did. I took the train from Bremen to Coburg. You do have to switch trains, so you have to carry your luggage on and off of the train. Sometimes the trains are late. You have to run down and upstairs to the next platform. I booked a hotel. I wasn't able to go there and back in one day. It was just too far. And since the audition was in the morning, I booked a hotel. Actually, in the next town over on the train because the hotel was a little cheaper. So I booked a hotel in Lichtenfels, and then I took the train over that morning. I did the audition. I did have to speak German. They wanted to see how my German was. And
And go ahead, go ahead.
at that point, I was in the middle of my A2 German class up in Bremen. So at that point, my German was a little bit better. And, but I think they appreciated the effort and they could sort of sense my level of German, which was very basic, but it was enough, I think.
That's a very good point. It really, in a certain sense, um, it's not that you speak German well or that you're fluent. It's that you're trying and that you're making an effort, and and that you can, in the most basic way, communicate. If they say go stage right, go right, you know what that means, and you can go forward and back. You can just do the basic, simple things, and you care. You're trying. It's their ball game. It's their country. You got to speak their language. So you got the job, and you had to go back up to Bremen and pack and go home, and then move to Coburg.
Exactly, all in one weekend. My husband, as it often is, yes.
Yes,
My husband ended up staying in Bremen for the moment. Um, and yes, what started off as a 6-month contract, the singer who I was replacing at the moment decided to extend her maternity leave for 1 year. And because they liked my work, they asked me if I could stay for the year, and I said absolutely. In the meantime, I was learning German. I was speaking German with my colleagues. I was still swimming a lot, but as you said, stage left, stage right, you get the basics, and it's amazing what you learn from being here and working in a German rehearsal here. I was learning the theater system, and once they sort of got to know me and they knew that I was interested in singing as a soloist, I started off doing very small roles, like the Edelknaben in Lohengrin, for example. And then the colleague that I was substituting for, after 1 year, she decided to not return to the position. And so they offered me, would you like to stay on permanently in this position? And yes, I didn't want to be in the chorus forever, but I thought, well, in the meantime, I'm learning German. I'm getting to work in the system here. I'm learning the system. I said, yes, I will stay. So I stayed, and every year that went by, I was doing slightly larger roles. I think Coburg is a B house, and so being in the chorus, actually you have sometimes more opportunities to do roles that maybe in a larger A house they might not offer to the chorus. And so by my final year in the chorus, I was singing roles like Cherubino. I did Tisbe in Cenerentola, and I sang the third wood nymph in Rusalka. So it was my years in the chorus, it was almost like an
apprenticeship.
extension of a young artist program almost, because I was learning roles, I was learning the system, and growing as a singer, growing as an artist, and I we were really enjoying the lifestyle here. And then we had an intendant change in 2018-19. And the new intendant asked if I wanted to join the ensemble as a mezzo soloist.
So that's fantastic. That's that's a great story because you really did essentially do an apprenticeship in a theater where it's not always the case, but it's wonderful to hear that there are still theaters where they develop their artists because that's the old German way of doing things in the theater. They would really develop artists. And so it's great to hear that you did that. So tell us now about what repertoire you've moved into and you're singing, and what's happening with your career in Coburg and elsewhere now.
Absolutely. So my first few years in the ensemble here, I was doing more supporting roles, roles like second lady and magic flute, things like that. I had a nice surprise my first year as a soloist. I was supposed to sing Mercedes and Carmen, and the Carmen got sick, and they asked me if I would be willing to perhaps take over the role of Carmen. I was scheduled to sing performances of Carmen the next season in the Wiederaufnahme. So I had already been learning a little bit of Carmen, and so with 3 weeks to the premiere, I said, "Sure, why not? I'll do it." And with the help of my colleagues. But so I went from a year ago I was singing in the chorus to 1 year later I made my debut as Carmen. So, but I think I found if you're prepared, sometimes you can be a really easy solution for the theater. If
I was just going to say this is one of the good things about being American because we are flexible and we learn fast and we'll do anything. And many Germans won't. They can be a little nervous about these things. So it is a great thing. And you're a perfect example of it. You just said, okay, sure, I'll do it. And you did it.
Absolutely, Larry. And I had, again, it was my preparation. I had already started learning Carmen. I thought, oh, let me learn it properly. So I had done the work and started learning it. And then when the opportunity came up that they needed someone, I was there. Um, so yeah, I was really thankful for that opportunity. And yes, then as the years went on, I got to do some other really nice roles in the mezzo repertoire. Things like Dorabella in Così. Of course, sometimes, as you know, you have to sing roles that are maybe a little outside of your Fach. In my case, sometimes higher, sometimes lower as a mezzo. I think it's important to have a really great technique, so that when you're asked to sing things that are slightly don't fit your voice super well, you can do it in a healthy way. So I have sung, a few things over the years that, yes, I may never sing again, but it's still nicer to, anytime you get to do a role, you learn so much. It's a great experience. So the last few seasons, I've had some wonderful roles. We did The Damnation of Faust last year, and I got to sing Marguerite, and that really,
That that's that is the Berlioz Damnation de Faust.
yes,
You're
yes.
right, right, because people should know. A lot of American singers won't know that piece is it's being done more in theaters. It's really written as an oratorio, stand there and sing. But now they're staging it, and it's a great music.
Absolutely. It's incredible music. And last season, or 2 seasons ago, I did my very first jump in. Again, it came not through an agent, it came through a contact of mine. It was a small company in Switzerland. They were doing a reduced version of The Marriage of Figaro. And I knew the conductor. He is on our music staff here in Coburg, and he was conducting it there. And the Cherubino got sick, and he asked if I could jump in for her, and I've done Cherubino before, so that was my first jump in. Was in 2021, and then last season I had a few more jump in opportunities that were great. And again, um, The first one was in Saarbrücken in Rheingold. I knew the KBB in Saarbrücken used to work here in Coburg, and when they needed someone, they were looking on Opera Base of who's done Floshilde. And when he saw my name, he said, "Oh, let me see if Emily's available." So it was a wonderful gift.
And this is one of the things about working in a German theater also, is that you do a lot of small parts, especially in big operas like, Wagner, and there are a lot of opportunities. A lot of people are doing it, and you find opportunities to do these things. You've also, I think you said, done the Norn and numerous other small Wagner roles, which is a great way to, get introduced both to that opera and also to the theaters that are doing it.
Absolutely. Some of these smaller or medium-sized roles, the theater might take a chance on you when they need someone. I mean, they need someone, and if you're there, they'll hire you. Absolutely. And then I had an idea. I thought, now that I have sort of a nice list of some mezzo roles, I wrote last year a lot of KBBs throughout Germany. I looked at their season and I said, okay, which roles could I realistically jump in for? And I started writing various KBBs. One of them was in Erfurt, which is a city fairly close to here. I saw they were doing also Damnation du Faust, which is very, as you said, rarely performed. So I wrote the Erfurt KBB in January of last year. And I said, "Oh, I see you're doing Faust in July. If you need a jump in, I've just done the role in Coburg, and I would be available." And they initially wrote me back and said, "Oh, we have a triple cast as Marguerite. Thank you, but if something happens, we'll keep you in mind." And as it happened, one of their three Marguerites had to leave the contract, and sort of towards the end of June of this past year, they contacted me and said, "Hi, Ms. Lorini, actually, would you possibly be available as Marguerite? We may need you after all."
And we should just interrupt to say the KBA is the office that does all the scheduling, and the pronunciation is really difficult. I have practiced it, but I probably still don't get it right. Künstlerisches Betriebsbüro. It's the artistic direction. They don't make the decisions, they don't cast, but they make sure that there is somebody to sing every role so they're sort of the daily operations manager, just so folks will know what it means. And they're the ones that you often will first contact, because the casting director and everybody else have a lot to do, and they're not gonna bother. But the KBB is always interested in people who can help them. So
Thank you for clarifying. Absolutely.
They're really important people, and always you can always just say Kabe Bay. Everybody knows what you mean. So in the States, I know that a lot of singers think they should have one French, one German, one English, et cetera, et cetera. But I understand and I know that in Germany it's very different, that you have to present yourself totally differently, not just because of the different expectations of the Fach system, but of the artistic representation. Talk to me a little about being a mezzo in Germany and how you auditioned and how you presented yourself and how you present yourself when you sing for people.
Sure. I think it's really important to be really honest with yourself. What are your strengths vocally? What fits your personality? What music or composers do you really connect with that fit your voice, fit your essence? And what I think what's very important is also, what can you sing right now? Again, they don't want to know 5 years from now that you'll be a great omnerus. Like, can you sing it now or not? So I think being honest, and you're right, Larry, it's not the typical, oh, you need the 5 aria package with the different languages. I mean, being in Germany, I think a German arias are very important. They're going to want to hear that. So for me as a mezzo, I have a little bit less German repertoire in my tool bag, but um, I when I came here, I was, it was 10 years ago. I was singing, pretty traditional lyric mezzo repertoire. I love singing Mozart and Rossini, so I was offering that a lot at the beginning. Um, I When I did Orlovsky, then when I did the role here in Coburg, I have Orlovsky to offer as a German aria now. I'm quite tall. I'm about 5'10". So for me, the pants rolls fit pretty well. Um, I love to do more dramatic, emotional roles, but I also love comedy. So I think putting in putting in arias that that you really genuinely enjoy singing and that fit into sort of your Fach. Now that I'm 10 years later in Germany, I've had to readjust my audition package a little bit. Instead of some of the lighter comedic Rossini, I just offered recently Desdemona from Rossini's Otello, that aria, because it showed lovely bel canto. My voice is growing, and so um, adapting to the changes of your voice as well is important.
That's great. That's great. And vis-a-vis German repertoire, I have to say, just in passing, that you have to work it in Germany because they really do understand the language. And in America, you might have the correct diction, but you don't have the correct Aussprache. And they really have to know what you're saying. That's wonderful. So, what do you like about life in Germany, and what do you dislike about life in Germany, both as a singer and as a person?
That's a really good question. I really really love the lifestyle here. I feel it's much more laid back than in the US, even in Germany. One would think in Italy or Spain, of course, it's even more laid back. But believe it or not, I find Germany, there's a way of life that's even more relaxed than in the US. There are beautiful parks everywhere that are very safe. That I love. I love to enjoy the nature. I love the architecture, the history that surrounds me. I love being able to do my errands with my bike or walking into town. I don't need a car. I don't really miss having a car every once in a while, but overall, um, I really, really enjoy the life here. Of course, I miss my family. Sometimes it can be challenging to be away from your loved ones. It's definitely a sacrifice, and I think even more so, it's really important as a singer to know what your why is of why you want to sing, and because there are a lot of sacrifices for sure. I think the fest system in Germany, it gives you a lot of stability. And because there are so many performances, because you're getting a monthly paycheck, when you get sick, you can take time off and you'll still get paid. That's not a luxury that freelance singers have. So that's really wonderful. The maternity and paternity leave system here for singers and for artists is wonderful. Um, it can be very challenging also as a fest singer. You are really, really working. I mean, I might have an orchestra stage rehearsal for one opera in the morning, and then the evening I have to do a performance of another opera. So you're working a lot, and that's great, but that's also a challenge, and you have to know yourself and know your technique if that's something you'd like to have.
The agents, I have to say, the agents and Heather and lots of people have all said you have to have a solid technique because you be able to really survive a very demanding schedule. And that's both good and bad. It's great for your development, but it can be a real challenge, and it can lead to some serious problems. If you get sick, you do have access to throat doctors, and you do have the ability to be ill. That's one of the nice things. You can be sick, and you have both health insurance. It doesn't cost you, the rest of your life, and the theater does have understanding for people who run into problems. It's the theater system has been around for 100 and some for 300s of years, but the official theater system has really been around for 150 years or so, and they've run into these problems before. They've run into these issues, so they deal with them, and it's a great thing, and it can be a tough thing. Uh,
Absolutely.
what advice would you give to young singers who who really want to sing and want to develop and grow and have a life while singing? And it's full of a lot of sacrifices, but artistically, it really offers a lot. What advice do you have to these kids?
I would say I would say get your technique as solid as you possibly can. Of course, we're all singers. Technique is a lifelong process. We're always trying to improve. Absolutely, but as solid as you can get your vocal technique and your artistry. I would say learn as much German as you possibly can. The more, the better. But know that it will improve. Every year that I've been here, my German has improved. I now have friends and we speak only in German. I mean, I work now in German and it's much more comfortable. It could still improve even more. I would say also be patient with the process. I think that don't expect to come here and after a few weeks or months, you're going to have a ton of work and everything is maybe how you expect it. Before we came to Germany, a friend of ours who had sung in Germany told us, give yourself at least 5 years before you're really working in the system. And actually, I think that's a pretty good number. I mean, everyone is different. Some people find work sooner, but I think 5 years is a nice, a nice investment to learn the language, the culture, the system here. So I would say be patient with yourself and give yourself some time, and be realistic with your capabilities. And I think in Germany here, they want to know what roles can you offer right now. They aren't as much interested in, well, 5 years from now, you might be a great whatever. They want a solution now. There's so much opera, there's so many performances. So I think that's important, and always being proactive, not always relying on your own agent to get you work, but doing what you can, taking action yourself to reach out to contacts and some of the rehearsal departments, the KBBs, as I mentioned, being prepared but flexible, and bring a lot of vitamin D with you, because the German winters are quite dark, and you need that extra vitamin D, I think.
It's great. It's great advice. It's great advice actually for anybody who's living and working in Germany, because and in big theater or small theater, even the people I know who've been started out at the Deutsche Oper Berlin or wherever, they all take time. It all takes learning. It all takes patience. It's great advice. Um, so Emily, what has gotten you through the toughest times? We've all had challenges, and what has kept you in Germany? What has kept you going?
um, Through the tough times, you really have to dig deep and know why am I singing? Why do I want to be here? And for me, it became a calling, and I really love to express and to connect with my colleagues on the stage, but also with the audience, and to make people in the audience feel something, feel joy or sadness, or see themselves in the performance that I'm sharing with them, to be a mirror for their humanity, and yeah, and not just, oh, I want a bunch of applause at the end of the night, but to really connect with the audience. Yeah, that really kept me going, and I've received, some feedback from audience members of how they've appreciated it, or maybe they were having a horrible day, and the performance really touched them in a special way. And yeah, it's meant a lot to be able to do that, for people. It's a very special calling, what we do, and so yeah, it's an honor to be able to do that for people.
And this is one of the things that we do that is part of German life, and that's part of the great thing. That's a really wonderful, wonderful way to sum it all up. Really, why we're there. Any further advice, comments for singers, or should we just end it there? It's a beautiful place to end.
Yeah, as I said, when we first came here, when we took the dive, and came here, we said, as as long as we love the life in Germany, we'll stay. And if we don't like it, if the sacrifices aren't worth it, we'll come back to the States. And here we are 10 years later, and I love our life here as artists, and it's really special. There's challenges for sure, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm so thankful to be here in Germany and to be working here, and it's very, very special. And anyone that wants to take the dive, I say go for it.